Hey everyone, Doomdog here. You know, Nintendo has had a practically unprecedented level of dominance in the handheld market. Ever since the release of the original Game Boy in 1989, they have had a stranglehold on the market with a steady series of excellent handheld consoles. Others have taken a swing at them in the past 30 plus years for sure. Neo Geo had the Pocket Collar, Nokia had the N-Gage, NEC released the Turbo Express. Having said that, there have only truly been two times that a competitor gave Nintendo a real fight. The first was Sega at the height of their popularity with the Game Gear. It offered more power and a color screen. It sacrificed battery life to do this, but hey, it was something. The other is the subject of today's video. Today we are talking about Sony's PlayStation Portable. From the way I hear many people talk about the PSP, you would think that this thing was a commercial failure or something. Nothing could be further from the truth. The PSP sold more than 80 million units worldwide. It was a huge success for Sony. I think this sentiment is the result of the direct competition to it being the DS. That was a cultural phenomenon. It was the second best-selling video game machine of all time. The PlayStation 2 is the only one that sold more than it. Despite more than respectable sales, the PSP could not keep up with that. Prior to the PlayStation Portable's announcement, there was a lot of buzz in the industry about Sony making a handheld. Fans really wanted it, and it was more of a question of when, rather than if. Their prayers were finally answered at E3 2003 when Sony officially announced that they were working on a new handheld device. There was not too much information given at this conference, and it was kind of just tacked on at the end of the show. At the time, Sony did not even have a prototype to show off, but they did show off the proprietary disc format that it would use called the UMD, Universal Media Disc. It was enough to whet people's appetite, and people were impressed with what they heard. The full reveal would wait until the next year at E3 2004. This year, Sony showed off the unit. They discussed the various features that it had. They made a lot of big promises at this show. They promised to deliver a console-quality games in the palm of your hand. A huge claim that would be a big step up in power even from Nintendo's own DS. They promised a device that would be good for listening to music and playing movies, and it had internet connectivity straight out of the box to give the system updates with new features. Of course, Sony showed off quite a number of different games at this E3 showcase as well. They showed off graphics at a level beyond any previous handheld before. Nothing even came close, as this was promising a technical level comparable to the PS2. Everyone left this E3 showing being super impressed with everything they saw about Sony's new handheld. On a technical level, at least, it blew what Nintendo was doing clean out of the water. All of this left fans and critics both extremely hyped for this handheld, and its release was highly anticipated. The PSP launched on December 12, 2004 in Japan and March 24, 2005 in the US. Much like the PlayStation 2, this had a large midnight launch events with people lined up to get their hands on Sony's new hardware. Initial sales were very strong, a trend that would carry on throughout the rest of the system's life. At the beginning, they were even stronger than that of the DS. Sony had a surefire hit on their hands. Why wouldn't they? The system launched with a shocking number of games. There were 24 launch titles here in the States. It launched with a new Tony Hawk game called Underground 2 Remix. There was a new Twisted Metal game called Head On. It had a new Ape Escape game called On the Loose, and a Metal Gear spin-off title called Metal Gear Acid. It had a very strong launch lineup of technically impressive games. The PSP is one of the few systems that I got at launch with Untold Legends, Brotherhood of the Blade, and Metal Gear Acid. So, what are we looking at here? The PlayStation Portable features a 233 MHz processor with 32 meg of RAM, and a 133 MHz GPU. The on-screen resolution was 480 by 272 with 24-bit color depth. It housed a memory card called a Memory Stick Duo that you could swap out for larger ones if you desire. This would allow you to download games off of the PlayStation Store. Sadly, said store closed down on March 21st, 2016. It had a PS1 emulator on it as well, which allowed you to download and play PlayStation 1 games with truly impressive accuracy. The games looked and ran very well on Sony's handheld, and Sony made a wide range of games available for you to purchase. It had the ability to connect directly to another PSP wirelessly for local multiplayer and Wi-Fi so you could hook it up to the internet. This allowed you to download updates to its UI, connect to the store, and most importantly, play video games online. Beyond this, you had different themes that you could download and choose from to customize the look of the PSP. And you could get wallpapers just like you could on your PC. It was very cool. There was a picture viewer as well that would let you flip between pictures with the shoulder buttons. You could hold down the square button and use that to zoom in and out of the picture to get a closer and more detailed look at it. It had an MP3 player as well. You could put MP3s on it and listen to them on the go if you wanted. It's commonplace now, but this was a huge deal in 2005. Last but certainly not least was video playback. This was a major feature that Sony pushed hard early in the handheld's life. Of course, you could play back digital video files if you put them on your handheld. To do that, you would connect your PSP to your PC, and it would recognize it and allow you to drag and drop video files as well as audio files and pictures onto the handheld to take with you wherever you go. The PSP ran on a disc format, though. It was a proprietary format called UMD that was essentially a mini disc in a plastic shell. This allowed for massive amounts of storage space, especially in comparison to the DS. A single layer UMD could hold 900 meg of storage space, and a dual layer UMD could hold 1.8 gig of storage space. This allowed for entire movies to be stored on them, and that is exactly what Sony did. They promised a DVD picture quality on it. Did they deliver? Well, if you want to know that, you need to check out the full-length review on BitChute, where I will not get in trouble for including film clips. Unfortunately, Sony made mistakes with the UMD format that caused it to be a massive flop and dead by 2007, a mere 2 years after launch. There was no way to play these things on anything other than a PSP. Sony never made any handheld UMD players besides this, and there are no home options either. You could not just get a UMD player and hook it up to your TV to watch the movies at home. This, combined with the complete lack of burnable discs and the DVD's ability to offer extra features, resulted in this format practically being dead on arrival. The failure of the UMD movie was not the only problem that Sony faced with this handheld. The firmware was cracked on June 15th, 2005, and this resulted in the PSP having a huge homebrew and emulation scene. Sony would go back and forth with hackers as they would patch exploits that allowed it to be hacked, and hackers would find new ways to hack it. This would cause a lot of problems for Sony with pirated software. Despite this, PSP owners did own an average of 4 games per person. The homebrew market is not really within the scope of this video, but I will link below to a couple of videos that explore it more thoroughly. Over the course of the system's lifecycle, there were multiple iterations of the PSP. The PSP 2000 launched on September 7, 2007. It featured a slimmer build with a better screen. The RAM was increased to 64 meg, and it was given video output so that it could be plugged into a TV. The PSP 3000 features an improved screen from the 2000 with increased color range and response time. The PSP Go was a diskless version of the system where you would download all your games, and the PSP Street was a stripped down model that would only launch in Europe. It had mono speakers with no Wi-Fi, where every other version had stereo speakers with Wi-Fi. Sony had an extensive ad campaign to support this. The PSP commercials were pretty strange early on. Remember the one with the squirrels?
Come out and play! I can't! I'm playing Nut! But there's Portable Nut! What? Yeah! It's a nut you can play with outside!
PSP. It's like a nut you can play with outside.
Yeah, that did not age particularly well. They had a lot of ads that were just two characters talking back and forth like this, and the conversation would always come back to the PSP in one way or another. Remember the commercials with the dust balls?
Hey, Dustball!
What?
Have you ever invaded anywhere?
Oh, yeah, man. I invaded this guy's privacy once. I snuck up on him real good.
You what?
I snuck.
Snuck?
Yeah, snuck.
Is that even a word?
Yeah, you know, it's like before you sneak up on someone, you're getting ready to sneak, and as you're sneaking up on them, well, you're sneaking. But once you finish sneaking, you snuck.
And then you're snocking?
Snocking? I should snuck over there and slap you.
Oh.
Get Snooky on Killzone Liberation for the PSP.
I'm not sure that this one has aged gracefully either. Something tells me that that would not fly today. The PSP never reached the levels of awkward as the early PS3 commercials. That one with the baby still weirds me out to this day. The ads did get a lot better when they decided to do something similar to their classic Kevin Butler PS3 ads, and they introduced Marcus. Give this a watch.
So tell me, Marcus, why are you qualified for this position?
You know, KB, thing about me is, I know the PSP.
All right, just a couple of questions here I gotta ask.
Fire away, KB.
What is your greatest strength?
Sniping.
Greatest weakness?
Work too hard, always running up the scoreboard.
How many games are there in the PSP library?
Over 500.
Name the best PSP game under $10.
SOCOM, Fire Team Bravo.
Favorite snack?
I consume a healthy amount of suckers online every day. Like that answer.
When you first contacted me, I was just going to ignore you, but you showed me something today. You're hired. You start on Monday.
Right. Nice to know, my brother.
Okay, I'll see you Monday. I'll bring bagels. Hi, Cindy. Can you bring bagels in on Monday?
Step your game up. Marcus, PSP. PlayStation.
Yeah, that makes me laugh to this day. I loved Marcus, and it seemed to work. I recall these being significantly more well-received than earlier ads were. It had an early to mid-2000s charms to it. Let's be honest, anything was better than that baby. So we have established that the PSP was a powerful piece of hardware for its day with a lot of forward-thinking features. On a technical level, it was the most advanced handheld on the market that offered a very different experience from what you could get on the DS, but a console is only as good as its games. The PSP was on store shelves for 9 years through 2014. You don't last that long without good games. So what does the PSP have to offer? The PSP was an advanced little handheld for its time, and it offered graphics comparable to those often seen on the PS2. Some developers, however, had even more ambitious ideas than that. Here is Assassin's Creed Bloodlines. This is a prequel to the first game in the series, and it has you playing as Altair, the protagonist of the first game. It attempts to emulate the open world formula on the small screen. It's not perfect, the draw distance is ass, and it's pretty glitchy at times. When it's running on all cylinders, however, it's rather impressive how much of the 7th gen game they managed to pack into this little handheld title. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. This is a prequel to Final Fantasy VII that tells the story of Zack Fair, leading up to the Nibelheim incident and the beginning of the original game. This game fleshes out fan-favorite characters like Sephiroth and Cloud while giving Zack his own immensely likable personality. This game is not perfect, and some of the story decisions are a little weird. Still, Zack is a great protagonist, and I like this game a hell of a lot. In my opinion, it is one of the best games on the system. Throughout the 7th generation of consoles, I kept hearing RPG fans wonder where all the Japanese role-playing games went. They didn't go away, they were just on the PSP. Beyond just this one, it had ports of Final Fantasy I and II, as well as a greatly enhanced port of Tactics. I already discussed Untold Legends 1 and 2 on the channel. It had versions of Persona 1, 2, and 3, Popula Croix, a Kingdom Hearts game, Jeanne d'Arc, and many more. If you like RPGs, you owe it to yourself to get one and start playing them. There are a ton of great ones. The PSP got not one, but 2 God of War games. This is God of War Chains of Olympus, and the game does an excellent job of bringing the God of War formula to Sony's handheld. It looks gorgeous, it sounds amazing, and all the over-the-top violent action that you love is packed into this little title. It got a second one called Ghosts of Sparta that is just as good. If you like Metal Gear, this system was a real treat for you. It launched with a Metal Gear spin-off title called Metal Gear Acid. This is a non-canon side story that offers a typical, complex, and convoluted Metal Gear plot that made you fall in love with the series. Where it differs is in its gameplay. Metal Gear Acid is a turn-based strategy game where all your movements are based on cards from a deck. There is really nothing else quite like it, and I enjoy it quite a bit. It has something of a steep learning curve, and it is not for everyone. I would recommend at least giving it a shot. It got a sequel also for the PSP. If the 2 Metal Gear Acid games are not your speed, you're in luck because it got 2 more typical canon Metal Gear games. This is Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. It stars Big Boss after the events of Snake Eater. And multiple familiar faces return for this one. It tells a good story, it looks great, the music is wonderful, and it introduces the recruitment mechanic that would become a mainstay of the series after this one. The one problem is that the camera controls are on the D-pad. They are difficult to work with, and it needs a remaster that places the controls on the other thumbstick. Then it would be perfect. The game got a sequel called Peace Walker as well. I would highly recommend these if you love this series. Do you like 3D platformers? Do you like Ratchet & Clank? Well, the PSP got a Ratchet & Clank game called Size Matters. While this was not developed by Insomniac, it maintains the humor and charm that helped elevate the other games in the series. If you love them, you will love this. But it's not your only option for a platformer. This got a game where you play as Daxter from the Jak and Daxter series, as well as a Little Big Planet. Clank also got his own game called Secret Agent Clank. The PSP is not ideal for shooters, but that does not mean that no one tried. Here is Resistance Retribution. It is a side game that takes place in between Resistance 1 and 2. Familiar characters from the first game return, and you play as a new protagonist called James Grayson as he joins the French resistance in fighting the Chimera. It has a more personal plot with more character development than the main games in the series, and it transfers the PS3 gameplay over to a third-person shooter very well. This one in particular is very cool. You could plug your PSP into your PS3 and connect it with Resistance 2. When you did that, you could infect your PSP to give Grayson the Chimeran virus and recharging health. It changed how some of the cutscenes played out, offering a bit of a different take on the story. You could also use the DualShock 3 controller to play the game, though that did make it more difficult if I'm being completely honest. It was a very cool option to have, though. The PSP also got the Coded Arms games and a top-down shooter set in the Killzone universe called Liberation, among others. Siphon Filter Dark Mirror brings the classic action series to the PSP with great success. This one looks and sounds gorgeous, though the controls leave a little bit to be desired. This is to be expected. When you do get used to them, though, they work just fine, and the game is an excellent little adventure and one of the better games in the Siphon Filter series. The PSP also got another game in this series called Logan's Shadow, and both of them are worth your time. Hey Sony, bring this series back on the PlayStation 5, would you? I hope I have shown you that the PSP has a lineup of games that is as excellent as it is diverse. There are plenty of genres that I did not even cover here, such as racing games where you have options like Ridge Racer and a Gran Turismo title, to truly unique experiences like Patapon and Loco Roco. It is a top-notch library full of excellent games, and there is something here for every type of gamer to enjoy. All in all, the PSP was well ahead of its time. Everything it did, from browse the internet, to play music and movies, to play games, is now available on your cell phone. It was a very forward-thinking piece of tech. That's all well and good, but what made it truly special was its library of games. If you never own one, it is still worth your time to pick one up and start collecting for it today. I love this handheld to death, and I always have. Thank you for watching. This started out as just another hardware review, and it kind of morphed into a full-on retrospective on the system. I hope you enjoyed. Do you or did you own a PSP? Do you love it, as I do? If so, what is your favorite game for it? Let me know in the comment section below. If you could share this video, that would help me out a ton as well. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to ring the bell so you get notifications from my channel. Talk to you later, everyone. Doomdog out.